Well, what a strange 2 years it's been. So, it's been a long time since I did YouTube. I think, like a lot of people, even though I knew what was coming, and in November 2019 I had an interesting piece of information that I was told to look into, I found out some interesting things about what was coming in March. And it was no surprise to me because I was aware of this possibility from at least 10 years before. So, as much as most of us hoped it would never happen, it did. Fortunately, it didn't get to the position where they wanted it to be. Anyway, that's got nothing to do with what I'm going to talk about today. But it is relevant because even me, who's quite, you know, easygoing and I don't worry about anything and I've been optimistic about this outcome from the very beginning, we've all had a tough time, haven't we? I moved my business to Oxfordshire just before this nonsense, and as much as things were progressing, the lockdown ruined everything. So we've all had issues with it, haven't we? Anyway, so now this nonsense is starting to fall apart, and it is a nonsense if you still haven't worked it out. And as I always say to people, if you do your own research, it will open up your mind and you will learn a lot of things that you didn't know. Anyway, so it's been about 2 years, I think, since I've been on YouTube. I've took off all my old videos, I think. There might be a few lingering around. And we're going to start again. It's 2022. Things are falling apart, thankfully, at last. And the truth is going to come out. So various people have said to me I need to get back into it, so I'm here. So my name's Keith W. I don't use my surname because I don't like it, and I've never liked it, but I've kept it because, I'm not really sure about the numerology thing, but I kind of think, well, if I was born with it, maybe I should hold on to it. Doesn't mean I have to use it, does it? Unless I really, really have to. So, and that's who I am. I'm the creator and director of Mind Education School Academy Limited, which is, at its heart, it's an alternative education system, which is be far better than the one we have. Will it be global in my lifetime? I doubt it, but I can still push it as far as I can get it to go, and it will be a greater benefit than standard education, and that's my destiny. I didn't know that for a long, long time, but that's what we're going to do. We will achieve it. I've already planned the date when it will open. You have to do these things. You have to make a firm decision in your mind and you have to live by it. But the power of a secret? It's the fact that it's a secret. As soon as you tell somebody your secret, it diminishes its power. Because they will share it with somebody else. Because people never keep a secret to themselves. They will tell somebody else, and they will tell somebody else. And every time it's told to somebody else, the power gets less. Because somebody will always be negative about it. Oh, there's no way you're going to be able to achieve that. And then you start to doubt yourself because everybody is being negative about what you're doing. So if you've got a secret, you've got a dream, you've got a destiny to fulfill, keep it to yourself until the time is right. Keep building it in here. It will get stronger and stronger and stronger, and you'll know without question that you will achieve it. Sometimes it's a good thing to keep things to yourself until the right time. So, what am I going to talk about today? I did write a few things down. Okay, I have a book coming out this year. I finished it in Christmas, 31st of December actually, 2019. And it just didn't feel right. There was something missing. And shortly before then, in November, I was walking through the park near where I live and had a very strong intuitive feeling. Then it said to me, watch The Survivors. Watch it tonight. And it showed me the video cover of the programme. And that would be The Survivors, a BBC programme. I used to love BBC stuff. Now I can't even say, but I find it very hard to say BBC now. They're so, you know. I used to be very proud to be British and have the BBC because they made wonderful programmes, wonderful documentaries. I used to watch the Argyll Whistle Test every week religiously because it's a wonderful music programme, you know. And now we know the truth about the BBC, how corrupt they are and what they're into. It's kind of a huge part of your childhood ripped away, really. They made so many really good programmes. And, of course, they don't call them programmes for no reason, do they? That's something you learn as life goes on. Anyway, I've sort of gone off the track a little bit there. So, anyway, The Survivors. The Survivors, it was a 3-series sci-fi programme, started in 1975. I think it was like finished in late 76 or something. So I got home that evening and I dragged it out the cupboard, having not watched it for at least 15 years. And I watched it and I knew it was relevant because this intuition that I got walking through the park was so strong. It was like, watch it tonight. So I watched it and I knew something was going on. So, and I had been aware of this potential going back a lot of years. I mean, a lot of this stuff was being talked about on YouTube 10 years ago or more. So I was aware that there was something planned. And of course, everybody who watched that was hoping it would never happen. And it did. So, and it was relevant to that. So I watched it and I thought something's going on here. Because I'd never watched the news. I've not watched mainstream news for such a long time. So I get my news and information through intuition, if it's something they think I need to know about. So when this whole thing started, I mean, it wasn't until, I suppose, February 2020 that I'd even heard the word Wuhan. That's how much I don't watch the news. So when this whole thing started off, I thought, oh, that's what it's trying to tell me. So, yeah. Did I mention, by the way, The Survivors was basically about a virus and it went across the world and it killed, the estimate in the programme was that it killed probably everybody except for 500,000. So it literally killed millions and millions and millions was the estimate they came to in one of the episodes. So I thought, is that what they're trying to tell me, that it's going to be a really bad situation? Having said that, I've been optimistic all the way through. I knew it wasn't going to be that bad. I had prophesied in 2003 about what I was going to do at this point. It didn't tell me why, that what I was going to do was going to happen around this time, 2020, 21, 22, but it makes sense now. So everything, when you get intuition stuff, you need to stick with it because it may not make sense straight away, but it will make sense eventually. So this is where we are now. I was optimistic from the start because I knew where I was going and what I was going to do. I was also very aware that some people would not be as fortunate as me. But there's nothing you can do about that. You know, you just have to follow your own path, do what you're told to do, because you feel it in here, in your heart, you know it's what you've got to do. So I was lucky to be able to be optimistic for the whole time. Even though it's hard, I mean, don't get me wrong, I just moved to this area and the whole thing went down the toilet. So everybody that I'd got to know, all the groups that I built, I had 2 groups. I had one here in Barnby where I'm living at the moment. I had another one in Oxford and I was getting to know people because me and my son moved here. We didn't know anybody. So we literally come here on an intuitive feeling. We were told to come to this area. Well, I was. So constantly following my intuition, taking me wherever I think, well, I don't know why they're sending me to Oxford. I know now. It's all starting to come together. So you need to follow these feelings because you may not understand it in the first instance, but it will all start to make sense. So now we're in Oxford, things are starting to pick up. But I was just like everybody else. I had 2 years where I got to a point, literally, as soon as the lockdown started, my groups fell down the toilet, everything went wrong. All the people I knew, I suddenly weren't in contact with. And me and my son were like, well, we don't know anybody here. So, although we didn't suffer like some people, because I just don't get involved in that kind of nonsense. I'm aware, I always say, be aware without a care. And that doesn't mean you don't care, but you don't want that in here. So be aware of what's going on and distance yourself from it, and you'll be fine. You know, as soon as it gets in there, you get that negative stuff in there, it's going to drag you down. So obviously I work in this business, I was not going to let that get to me. That doesn't mean I didn't care, because I was like a stranger in a strange land. I thought, you know, they brought me here intuitively, and now we've got this situation which went on for far longer than we would have liked. So it's not been easy, but I've managed to stay optimistic, and you know, that's a great power to have, to always be optimistic. So this is where we are now, and I'll go back a little way to, and I'll start telling you bits of my book, The History of Mr. and Me Walking the Longer Path. And because the thing is, everything that's happened to me, and I can tell you some absolutely wild stories. You know, things that skeptics won't believe, but people who are like me will think, well, that's happened to me. It's no big deal. I can tell you a story that will blow your mind. Some people will believe it, some people won't. But the people who believe it will believe it because they've had the same experiences themselves. Nothing that's happened to me is exceptional. These things are happening to people all over the world, the ones that are open to the possibility. They're the kids that never lost their curiosity at school. They never lost their open mind. They was always interested in things. Generally speaking, the things that other people weren't interested in. Like kids that were interested in science fiction were always open-minded. They would be the kind of kids that saw it as a real possibility. Even then. I mean, when you consider this planet is 4.5 billion years old, are you really so naive as to believe that we are the only people ever been here? 4.5 billion years, and we kind of turned up, what, 200,000 years ago? Really? You really believe that? You really believe what they tell you? Because I never did. And then I started to research it. Well, let's find the truth about this. What is really going on? Standard education takes away your curiosity. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to take away your natural superpowers. And it took me quite a long time to find out what my destiny was. And now I have an education system of my own, and it will be a great success. But everything happens at its own time. You can't force it. It happens at its own time. So, I'll tell you one weird story on this introduction video. So, these are some of the strange things that happen to you. In 2003, I started to have my prophecies. They didn't make much sense to me at first. The things that I was told blew my mind, and I can't tell you what they are because you'll think I'm boasting. Although people that are like me will, if I told you, and I will tell you eventually, they will say, they would trust that because the same things would have happened to them. You've got to be open to these ideas. And I've always been very logical and very scientific. I don't do gullible. I like to be sure. And because of that, throughout my life, and I can tell you, I've survived death 5 times without a scratch. And one of the things that these prophecies told me, that I was living a charmed life and I couldn't die until I'd succeeded in what I came here to do. That's what they said. But then I thought about the times I survived death without a scratch. I think, well, somebody's watching me. You know, surviving death without a scratch once is probably, you could say that's a bit of luck. 5 times? Well, 5 times that I'm aware of. They're all in the book. I will tell you about them. I may even do videos on each one. But in 2003, I was given all this information. It seemed a bit iffy at first, because like I said, I'm very scientific and this was very spiritual, and I'm not a spiritual person naturally, and I'm 100% not religious. I haven't got a religious bone in my body, although I did have some very strange experiences that some people would say, oh, that's a religious experience. No, it wasn't. It was a natural phenomena that I was supposed to experience. But there was what some people would say was a religious element to it, because I saw something, but it wasn't a religious happening. It was trying to clarify to me something that I was thinking about. It's quite complicated. I'll come back to that one another day. But and this is just one story about how things happen to get you to where you want to be. In 2007, I finished a relationship that I was brought to get me out of another relationship, so that this relationship would get me to where I want to go. Everything that you need to do in your life, there will be stepping stones to get you there. And it was clear that I had to leave this particular lady, because she would have kept me, stopped me growing. So I went to this next relationship that was there, just the bridge to get me to where I needed to go. Sometimes relationships aren't supposed to last. They're a bridge to get you from one place to the next. Stepping stones, if you like. It sounds a bit harsh, but sometimes your life is designed like that. Like, this person may have been keeping you small. This person would have done something to give you the push to go on to the next stage. And when that ended in 2007 by my choice, I went back to my parents, because both my parents weren't too good. And from there, everything that was told to me in 2003 started to be projected forward from that moment. And the strange thing was, at that point, my confidence still wasn't brilliant. I wouldn't have been doing this in 2003, never mind 2007. So I still wasn't at, I had a computer, for example, and all I did with that, it was that I was a photographer, and I bought my first digital camera, so I thought, well, maybe I ought to get a computer. That's the only reason I had a computer. I didn't even have a mobile phone. I just didn't feel I needed it, Anyway, while I was with my parents, I thought, well, I better get a job. So intuition said to me, you need to go down to the there was an agency, recruitment agency in town, in Bedfordshire. That's where I was, Bedfordshire. And I walked through the door, and as soon as I walked through the door, the lady behind the desk says, the very man. How'd you fancy working on a military camp? And I'm thinking, I don't do military. I'm a pacifist. She said, well, it'd be quite nice. And I thought, it might be interesting. I said, yeah, all right then. She said, they've only literally just rang. They rang, I put the phone down, you walked through the door, and you're the lucky person. I thought, all right then, okay. And it was Defence Intelligence and Security. Sounds interesting. I've been there before. They used to have open days, and we used to go down there years ago. It used to be an American Air Force base. Now, at that time, it was a what they call, I think, a tri-service. They had the Navy there, the Army, and the RAF. So it was quite interesting. So from that, which I had an 8-month contract, and I did very well there, and I got on very well with the guy who ran the quartermaster. The quartermaster and I had a good laugh. It opened up my mind, because I wasn't a military type person. It really helped me understand the military, because I am a pacifist. I don't like war. Never liked war since I was a kid. It's always bothered me. But it's a very interesting experience. And then that contract came to an end. Well, you've got to realise, at school I was an educational failure. I didn't want to be there. I didn't fit in. I left school with, yeah, a few qualifications, but no big deal. So when that contract ended, I was suggested to me that I applied for this job at Defence Intelligence Security, which I eventually came back to and worked in the PSYOPs department for a while. But that was like 5 years later. And there was a job going at Army Training. And they said, well, why don't you apply for that? It wasn't exactly round the corner. It was quite a long drive to get there. But it was a job. And I'd done quite well at, Chicks Hands, where I was. And I got kind of into the military thing, eventually. So I went for this job at Bassingbourn, and I got the job as a senior storekeeper. What happened was, the manager that was supposed to be there, he'd got caught up somewhere, and the quartermaster who knew the quartermaster at Chicks Hands, me and he got on like a house on fire. This guy was a guy from Lancashire. He was basically can't think what they call it now. He was a basic soldier, but he managed to get the job as a quartermaster, and he became a major. He's some kind of rifleman or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. But me and him got on like a house on fire. I mean, I used to be walking through the department, and he'd see me walk by and say, "Hey, come in, we'll have a chat." And we got on really well. So already my opinion of the army had really, really changed. So it was good from that point of view, that I really started to understand army people. And this manager that wasn't there, the quartermaster said to me, he's not going to be here for at least 4 months. How do you fancy managing the department? And I'm thinking, yeah, all right. So there's me, no qualifications or experience in this particular job. I'm running a department on a military base. As it turns out, when the manager did finally turn up, he had his eyes on bigger things. So he kind of sneaked his way into this other department. And the quartermaster said to me, how do you fancy running this full time? So I applied for this little job. And the next thing I know, I'm running the military department with no experience or qualifications. Well, I'd been eyeing up this place for a while. I think, well, that needs changing, you're a lazy so-and-so. I was really kind of thinking I could run this far better than it has been run for the last God knows how long. So I really got into it. I changed everything and I moved everything around, and, because I'm quite finicky, I like things done properly. So that really lifted my confidence. So I thought, well, if I can do this, I can do anything. To cut a long story short, when I finally left there, and then like I said, I went to PSYOPs for a while, and then I went into gardening leave for a while, and then they sent me back to, it wasn't Army Training when I come back, it was Vocate, which had the Libyan Army there, and that was a mess. That was a really bad, but yeah. And that was like my intuition saying, come on, that's it, you've done it, you've learned everything you need to know, it's boosted your confidence up, now you've got to leave here and you've got to go. So I gave my resignation on the 14th of January 2015. I was officially out of the MOD, and literally a week after that I got a very strong intuition, and it said to me, start a business, call it Mind Educational Limited, and make it a limited company now. Do it now. It's very firm. Do it now. So I did it now. I didn't know how to set up a limited company. I had no idea. The interesting thing about that, literally weeks later after I actually had that as a limited company, I had a guy from China ring me up saying, was Mind Educational Limited my company, and did I want to keep it? And my intuition said, yes, you do want to keep it. Trust your intuition. If I hadn't made that a limited company when I was told to, that guy would have got it. So I was supposed to make it as a limited company for a reason. Listen to your intuition. Keep your mind clear enough to hear what's going on. A lot has happened throughout that time and here, and that will all be in the book. I can't tell you all, I'd be talking for days on end. But the point being, when your intuition talks to you, you act on it, and you act on it instantly. Do you know the trouble with standard education? They don't want you to know your superpowers. They don't want you to know about intuition and inner knowing. Do you know, if everybody had intuition and their inner knowing intact, deception would become a thing of the past. You can't lie to somebody who's intuitive, and we are all intuitive. The thing is, not only does it stop deception and lying, you realise that you don't need to be deceptive anyway, because your intuition will take you to all the places you need to go. There's no need to be dishonest. Once that system works the way it's designed to work, it works equally well for everybody. Deception, lying become a thing of the past, which means governments, those people, they can't pull the wool over your eyes when you're intuitive. They would never got away with this scam if everybody was intuitive. So they put you through an education system to take away your mental superpowers. The fact that you can self-heal yourself. You don't need their drugs. You are self-repairing. They don't want you to know that. They don't want you to know that you have the ability to know when somebody is lying to you. Like them, for example, the government. They don't want you to know that when you go through the system, the things that they are teaching you are irrelevant. That the things that you really need to know, you can get intuitively from wherever it comes from. You are a walking computer. You have the ability to download everything that you need. You don't even need education. All you really need is to be nurtured to be the best person you can be, the person you were designed to be on this mission. Education keeps you small. It keeps you in the boxes they want you to be. You can work in an office. You could become a company director, but you lot, factories for you. That's the way it's designed. A few people to do the bigger jobs, the other people can just do what's left. It's not designed to lift you up, it's designed to keep you down. Okay, this video has been longer than I intended, but I want you to realise the power that you have. And I was an educational failure, and now I teach and I mentor people the power of the mind. I'm very close to 63. I'm at my mental and physical peak, and I improve daily because I choose to. Longevity, we should be living far longer than we do. Illness, unnecessary. It's the stress of life takes away your longevity. We can all do far better than this. And this pandemic nonsense is the gateway to your potential. Unfortunately, a lot of people have lost their lives because of this. There's various opinions as to why that is if you're a spiritual person. I'm not really a spiritual person, but I've been pushed into that area, and I'm comfortable with it now because it's not what I thought. It is far more scientific. I'm very scientific and logical, and I can see the scientific and logical reason into that. So I can cope with it better than I probably would have done 15 years ago when all these strange things started to happen around me. Anyway, I've been talking for about 30 minutes. You probably lost interest a long time ago. But I just want people to realise we all have superpowers. We are all self-healing. We should all be living far longer than they allow you to live. Don't trust me. do your own research, and start to put it into practice, and you will see that your life will change beyond your imagination. But you've got to do the work. It's not difficult. It just takes time. I'll be back again tomorrow.